Bloodline Civil War Wishlist. I'm Will. That's Brandon. We are the Cousins of Destruction Wrestling podcast. As always, let's cheers. Talk about some wrestling.
Yeah, we do this with some different things, whether it's PLEs or feuds, rivalries. Well, this one's a big one, so we figured why not kind of attack this one and get it going, see what we really want to do here.
Very recently, Roman and everybody kind of came back. The steel cage match on Friday Night SmackDown, a couple SmackDowns ago, kind of started it. I mean, we all knew it was coming, but we're talking about Roman looking at Fatu face to face. Just all that stuff is really starting to get rolling. So we figured, why not give our wish list about it? Not predictions. It's not stuff that we're predicting will necessarily happen, but things that we personally want to see happen. How we would do it. So, without further ado, you want to go first or me?
I guess I'll go first. I'll take the easy one out of the way for me. Specifically for me, I want the Usos to be just a tag team again.
Oh.
I know Jay's had his singles run going on. I know Jimmy's been off TV, but I really kind of just miss them. Obviously, we're going to assume we get them back on the same team, on Roman's team down the line. I just want to see them tag again. I mean, obviously, they're getting a little bit older. One of the greatest tag teams, especially the last decade or so. So, yeah, just give me that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to hate on that, especially because they just had, I mean, it's been, a couple years at this point since they've really been a tag team.
Yeah.
Since Mania 39, when they lost to Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, and then, of course, they had their falling out. It's like the opposite with the New Day. As the New Day is starting to break up slowly, I wouldn't mind them getting back on the same team and continuing one of the best tag teams that ever existed.
Yep.
I thought you were going to go with this one, my first wish list, which was the easy one.
Okay.
Keep Cody away from it.
I have that on my list.
Keep Cody away from it. Obviously, we got Bad Blood coming up, and it's Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns taking on Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu. So this wish list is obviously down the line, and we know it. But, we need to get Cody away from this. I'm going to try to talk about it in terms of the bloodline because we all know our thoughts about Cody Rhodes needing his personal title reign away from it. But the bloodline should be about the bloodline. Mm-hmm. The Civil War should be about the people who are directly involved, the actual family members, Roman and whoever else he decides to bring in, guessing Jay, guessing Jimmy, and who knows who else. I'm okay with Sammy because, he's the honorary Us and there's precedent there. But in terms of the Civil War, I need Cody Rhodes to just be over there. Go be over there.
Yeah, I have that on my list. I had to take that one off because you had that on there. I mean, couldn't say it better myself. I want Cody to stay away from it, not only for Cody's sake, but for the bloodline's sake. I want the actual Civil War to be a Civil War. You have Cody, who's kind of like an outsider. He's obviously not family. The only person I could see being an outsider, being incorporated into this, would be Sami Zayn. But even then, I still don't want a ton of Sami in there, even though he had such a good rise with the bloodline, and so did the bloodline. They kind of needed each other at that time. I still just want to see the Civil War itself be focused on that.
And in terms of Sami, it kind of feels like his character's outgrown that. He's no longer just kind of like the comedy relief that he was when it was bloodline time. Obviously his character ended and he had a phenomenal character arc. But now we've gotten months and months and months of serious Sami, and he's even going after world titles now. Him just being the funny honorary Us. I don't know if that'd fit.
Yeah, absolutely. My next one would be one that obviously we are going to get, but I want to make sure they emphasize it. I want Roman to show the different side of his character. We get the only tribal chief, original tribal chief, whatever you want to call him, the kind of badass that Roman Reigns has become. Really started with this. I want to see more of a empathetic, sympathetic figure of Roman Reigns towards Jimmy and Jay specifically, really kind of leaning on those guys as his bloodline, as if Roman Reigns would not be Roman Reigns without those two, and really kind of seeing that side of Roman kind of develop a little bit, I think would add more to the story, which I think we're going to get that. Yeah,
I mean, I had a wish list that would piggyback off this a little bit. I think I had make Roman ask for the help. Mm-hmm. You talk about being empathetic, sympathetic toward Jimmy and Jay. Roman just spent 4 years making every single person acknowledge him, which I'm totally fine if he still makes the crowd acknowledge him, and that's sort of his pop, that he does, which is fine. But I need the person who has been demanding acknowledgement from everybody else to finally sort of bend the knee a little bit and be like, okay, I need help. This is a little bit too much for me. Please come back. I know that I've treated you wrong in the past, but like they're a bigger threat than I can handle. They're a huge threat to just us in general, to our bloodline. So like, please come back and help me. So that'd be a change of pace and change of character that I think's on par with what you're trying to say here. Mm-hmm. And that'd just be interesting as hell. I mean, we need that from Roman. We need it.
Yeah, and I just think as a whole, when wrestlers do develop characters and you get to see multiple sides of them, that really gets me invested into a wrestler more when you get to see that.
Yeah, for sure. Another one, though, I already said keep Cody away from the bloodline. I'm going to extend that a little bit further. Keep championship titles away from the bloodline. Right now, they are hoarding the tag titles, in my opinion. I just don't see them. I don't see the reason for them having those tag titles. I've said it before in the past that, like, okay, every WWE faction that's ever formed, one of their goals is to go after all the gold, right? That's just what you do as a faction. That's the point of becoming a faction, right? To establish power and the ultimate power in wrestling are those gold belts. But I just feel like the Bloodline Civil War should mean it's bloodline. I'm going to say that 10 times throughout this episode, but like that's the ultimate goal, like the ultimate reward here is like the Ulafala and like becoming the tribal chief and establishing the dominance in the hierarchy within the family, the most prestigious family in the history of professional wrestling. And I don't think you need belts to be a part of that. Like that would just get our eyes looking the wrong way, I think.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The only thing I would say is if they do a Tama Tonga, Tongaloa versus Usos kind of thing, that would be the only way for me titles should be involved, is if they do it that way. But even then, I would rather them have the titles go somewhere else, because it is that much more important. Like you said, at the end of the day, the titles are important, but some things are more important than it, and sometimes you don't need titles. So
100%.
We talk about wrestlers not needing them. Sometimes we saw it with McIntyre and Punk, even though originally like the title was kind of cost and that was kind of the initial thing. Once he lost that, you didn't need the title at that any time. So I agree with that one. Eventually, I want to see a tag match here. Now, I kind of don't know how you get there. I kind of have ideas in my head, but I want to see Jacob Fatu and Roman Reigns team up. That way you can push that money match down the line as far as you can versus Solo Sikoa and The Rock.
Yeah.
I think that is a money match. I think that has a Rumble feel to it, maybe. That would be really expediting the story along, but that needs to be at a big four. That needs to have some sort of big stakes, maybe a SummerSlam next year if they drag it on that long. I just think that would be perfect. You have Solo kind of being the puppet for The Rock, and you have Jacob Fatu kind of realizing maybe he comes to his senses and maybe he is like, you know what, I want to fight against Solo now. And boom, you have Roman and him. And then, I mean, that just sounds like a money match.
Yeah, I mean, I can't argue that. I mean, we've given our flowers to Jacob Fatu already. I think everybody who watches professional wrestling acknowledges the superstar that they have in Jacob Fatu, and being able to pair him in a match against Roman Reigns with Roman Reigns. I mean, that has to be on the schedule. So I'm once again piggybacking off your wish list here, because not only do I have Roman versus Solo, I'm actually going to kind of go against what you said, because I have on my wish list Fatu stays with Solo. Don't rehash Solo Roman here. We've already had the Roman, or Solo was Roman's enforcer, and now he's, kind of defying him, and now they're facing each other. And I just feel like if we go down that same route again, will it be as effective? We've been there, done that, especially within the same storyline, like the Bloodline storyline.
Right.
And I just feel like you risk sameness there. Even though a big money match like Roman and Fatu teaming up, I mean, they'd be the most dominant tag team in the history of tag teams ever.
Yeah, I mean, you do jeopardize that, right? The sense of running it back. But I think you could use that match specifically, and you could branch that off to where you have Fatu versus Solo, and that can go that way. And then what kind of leads me to my next one, Roman versus The Rock, maybe at like a Mania.
Yeah.
I think that would be a good way to kind of branch it out. Now, I know The Rock is rumored to be taking the belt off Cody Rhodes. That may still happen. I personally would want to see this Bloodline one over that. I think that just for me, it would be something I would enjoy more. I think that tag team match, maybe like I said, at the Rumble or something, you could have that branch off. You can have Fatu and Solo in kind of a high prolific feud. I mean, high intensity one that people actually care about. And then you can have Roman and The Rock. I mean, you don't need to say anything more for that.
I mean, if we don't end up getting Roman Reigns versus The Rock at a WrestleMania at any time within the next 2 years, what are we doing? What was the Bloodline storyline even worth it, right? Like, that is a absolute must. Every fan wants it. Even the fans lying, saying that like The Rock is 50 years old and shouldn't be in those big time matches. You guys, you really want it. Come on. The final boss taking on the tribal chief, Roman Reigns.
When Roman's sitting there cutting a promo and then all of a sudden the music hits, like, you're going to yell for it. You know, you're going to pop for it.
Especially this final boss character, because it's not The Rock anymore. He is a new character, and if he feels like he's elevated his game to the point where he can look the tribal chief in the eye, and all of us believe that the tribal chief, I mean, you got a task up against you. But piggybacking off this sort of thing, I'll just get like the fantasy matches out of the way, right? We talked about Roman versus Rock. We talk about Roman versus Fatu, because obviously we want Roman Reigns taking on Jacob Fatu. I mean, whenever that match comes to a head, I mean, that's going to be my most anticipated match of the year. No matter where it's at, it could be on freaking Friday Night SmackDown. It could be on Saturday Night Main Event in December. I don't care. I'll be there for it. And then one more that's kind of obvious that we might as well throw out there because it's Wishlist. Give us the Civil War Games. Mm-hmm. It's coming up in a couple months here. It is the War Games match that we've all speculated happening since they announced the War Games match last year. I mean, it's like eventually they're going to split up and we're going to get Civil War and War Games, right? Mm. And that's coming. So please give us that. In terms of just wish list and matches, do the obvious things here, basically is what I'm saying. Give us those big money matches, and I think WWE has a good enough head on them to do that.
Yeah, I feel like if you don't get a couple of those matches that everybody assumes is going to happen, you're really missing the ball. You're really dropping the ball and missing the point. I feel like WWE is in a place with this. They've done such a good job with the Bloodline story as a whole, and even when Roman was gone, it was just a few months. But they kind of treaded water there a little bit, but they incorporated some new stuff here and there that made you feel like they cared again. This is the baby. I mean, this is perhaps the best wrestling story of all time, some would say. And I don't think that they're going to screw us out of any dream matches.
Oh, no chance.
I've reached the end of mine. Okay. I know you've got some more.
No, we got a few more. We got a few more. Just in terms of like little stuff that I want to see. I want to see Royal Rumble. If we still have the Bloodline together in terms of this Bloodline 2.0, Solo, Fatu, the Tongas or the Tamas or whatever they are, Tama Tonga, Tongaloa. I want them to, I thought about this. I want them to dominate the Royal Rumble. I want them to be one of those teams that all four of them are in the ring by like, you know, number 12, 13, early in the Rumble. Yep. And they become like this force that's just taking out every single person, and then you have to have like the Street Profits come in back to back, and you have DIY, and like those type of stories can take place within the match and make the Royal Rumble really fun and make it feel like, ooh, are they going to make Solo go all the way here? Or you have, you know, Solo and Fatu be two of the final four, and then it's like, what are you doing there? And does Fatu go, I love you, Solo, and jump out of the ring? You know, stuff like that. I was just thinking about like specific scenarios to where like the Royal Rumble could be a really fun place for the Bloodline if they don't end up being in just a flat-out match.
Yeah, and I think that, I mean, even if they are in a flat-out match, I do miss the days where back in the day, like, even if somebody did compete in a match, like, that still didn't mean they were off limits for the Royal Rumble. So I think that would be fun. I do miss it when a faction would kind of dominate the Rumble, because there's so many different stories you can tell there. There's so much history with the Bloodline stuff that you could recall the years of history at this point, and you could insert almost anybody into it because they've destroyed almost any and everybody. I mean, Owens, Orton, obviously Cody's going to have a title defense, and maybe Orton's in that too, but Street Profits, DIY. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on and on. So yeah, you can sign me up for that.
It'd be like a really big through line for the Royal Rumble, one that we haven't seen since like the whole Triple H thing, where the title was on the line and Triple H was obviously coming out at 30 to do it. And then he did it. So it'd be something cool to see. A couple more here. One, I don't overdo additions to the bloodline. I know that this family has 50 freaking members and all of them are great and I get it. And it seems like every time I open wrestling Twitter, there's a video of some bloodline member in some indie promotion just doing something ridiculous and people are like, when this guy eventually gets to the bloodline story, it's gonna be amazing. And like, while that might be true, I think we'll lose sight if we keep on adding and we keep on adding, we keep on adding. I think that like 5 to a side would be as much as I'd want to see. And right now we already have 4 with Solo in them. Guessing The Rock's going to go ahead and jump on that side at one point, and then you already have booked Roman, Jay, Jimmy, and we assume Sammy's going to be allowed in there at some point just because. And then you get one more addition there. Who knows? Add someone there. But I don't want to see like, us having eight people walk out in the bloodline one day, like Twitter thinks we're eventually going to have.
Yeah, I think we all probably need to temper the expectations when it comes to that because it does turn into like almost like an NWO thing at that point where it's like you kind of lose sight of the core members, of the importance of the coreness of it. I feel like that would really kind of dissolve really the heat that this has kind of built up already and for the years that it has been going on. So I think that's probably good. I think 5 is probably max. I would be fine with them adding, like you said, maybe one more person. Sometimes it feels like they need that just a hair from time to time, but yeah, don't overdo it.
And then just a couple more. I want Roman to lose a couple times. I'm not saying that he needs to lose singles matches, but it goes on with my earlier wish list thing of wanting him to ask for help. Make it look like he needs help. Roman Reigns is obviously awesome. I don't want him to lose a bad blood here. I think him and Cody will 100% go over because, I mean, if Cody and Roman can lose a tag team match, I mean, I don't even know what to say to that unless one of them walks out on each other, something like that. But like, make it feel like Roman really needs some help. Have him maybe take on Tama Tonga and Tongalo in a handicap, stuff like that. Give him situations where it's obviously stacked against him and he just can't overcome it by a little fraction. And he takes a couple pins here. It doesn't make him look weak. It just makes the story look good. Like if he starts coming out and he's just taking out bloodline members every single week and he kind of looks like Damian Priest and the Terror Twins, then the interest from me personally doesn't stick.
Yeah.
So I need him to not look weak, but I need him to look like he needs some help.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. You need to have that side of the story be examined, and it, like I said, it goes back to kind of what I was talking about with the Roman character side. You need to make him look beatable. You need to make him look weak at times. You need to make him look like he needs that help because otherwise it's just like, they're just obviously this side's gonna win. You know what I mean? Agreed.
And then last one in the Bloodline Civil War story on top. They've done a good job, or not, back it up. Whenever any of the Bloodline members are asked about where they are in the story, it seems like we always get further and further away from the end. It's like Paul Heyman after WrestleMania 40 was like, or WrestleMania 39 when Roman beat Cody, he was like, we're probably in the third inning. And then Jey Uso was asked a couple weeks ago where they're at, and he was like, probably in the third inning. It's almost been 2 years since then. What are we doing here? The story is still very relevant and very interesting at this point. Obviously, we're talking about it. The Civil War is just now beginning, so we haven't even really gotten to the meat of this thing. But if we're going to look down the line towards WrestleMania 42, which is when Roman and Rock are being expected to fight, that's a long time from now.
Yep.
Do they have that much story left? I bet they do, but my thing is like, if this thing ends up derailing in any way, shape, or form, let's get out of it before you spoil and ruin the obvious, what I would say is the greatest wrestling story in history.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a worry of mine, I guess, is how, like, I'm sure they have it planned out exactly, and they know a lot better than we do. We're just two idiots talking on the internet, but I guarantee that they know when they want to end it, how they want to end it, but I don't want them to drag this on too long. That's why I said, like, I know Rock is rumored to take the belt off Cody at Mania. For me personally, it would almost be better for this Mania to get Roman Rock, but you don't want to rush it. So there's so much that goes into play with it. I just don't want to see this water down and drag out to where it's like, God, this was really good in the beginning. Now you're in the 7th, 8th inning, like they always talk about, and you're like, God, this sucks. Can this be over?
Yeah, because at the end of the day, Roman Reigns is in the middle of this, right? This is kind of his legacy. His legacy when he gets remembered is not going to be the beating Undertaker at WrestleMania or the main events with Brock Lesnar before that. His legacy will be the Bloodline story. And by the end of it, it's looking like it's going to be at least seven years of his career, at the very least. So they need to do it justice. And whenever it feels like it's derailing and really losing steam, pack it in.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't foresee that happening anytime soon. So anyway, those are our Civil War wish list items. Let us know in the comments what you want to see from the Civil War. Hopefully it begins at Bad Blood, or really begins at Bad Blood. Maybe some returns or some fun stuff happens and we can get this thing rolling because it is time for it.
Yes,
Ready.
Yes.
Anyway, follow us on all of our socials at COD WrestlePod, COD WrestlePod. Listen to our podcast wherever you get your podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, etc. And if you want to join our Discord and come talk to us during Raw, SmackDown, PLEs, and just during the day, go to our link tree in our bio, join our socials and Discord. I'm Will. That's Brandon. We are the Cousins of Destruction Wrestling Podcast. We will see you next time.